Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Darius, and this is where we learn how to turn our words into cash flow. And today I'd love to teach you how to write 10K a month sales copy. And this mini course that I put together for you here is not based on books, but rather my own experience as a business owner who has built a $500,000 online language school. And I put together my learnings that I believe can help you write excellent sales copy, but actually get sales. But before we do that, what is sales copy? So sales copy is text written to sway consumers into taking specific actions. It can be used to persuade readers to buy a product, sign up for a mailing list, download content, or take any further action that will help your business achieve its goals. Thanks HubSpot for an excellent description, and I couldn't agree more. And I have to say that if you learn how to write sales copy, there is no limit to what you can achieve. You can grow your own business, you can help others grow their businesses, you can persuade readers, clients, customers, partners, investors to take the actions you want them to take. It can really help you scale what you want to do beyond your imagination. But what it requires is a little bit of training that I put together here for you. So in this mini course, I'll show you how to write sales copy that actually gets sales. Now, then we will move on to looking at the key elements to a successful copy. After that, I'll teach you how to read your customer's mind and connect to them. We will then look at why you should never think about your product and always think about your customer. Then after that, I'd love to talk about how to make it so that buying from you becomes a no-brainer for your client. And lastly, we'll finish with looking at how to leverage your customer stories to make a sale. And by the way, if you want to get more of these awesome videos about copywriting and become a better copywriter and learn how to turn your words into cash, sign up for my videos by subscribing to the channel and liking this very video. So let's start with part one of this training. And this is the cardinal rule of copywriting that I couldn't stress more, and I've talked about it in my previous trainings and videos on this channel, which is know your client. Know thy client, as I like to say it. Understand who they are, because this will influence how you write, what style you use, what tone of voice you use in your copy. So once this training is over, well, screenshot the slide and take a moment to describe who your client is, what they do for a living, what their income is, what their social status is, where do they live, what do they like, what their dreams and desires are. Sort of be specific, be extensive in your writing, and really map out this picture of your client. Then ask yourself, what language do they use? What specific words often come up in their vocabulary? And what is their style of speaking? Because this is very important. If you're writing a copy to a teenager in America, it will be very different to writing a copy to an elderly person in north of England. And the words that you use, the phrases that you use, will determine whether the sale actually happens and whether you actually connect to your customer. Because essentially a sale is connecting to your customer, is showing your customer that actually you can make a difference in their life. So once you've got this picture of your client, you can then sit down and write your sales copy to this person, having this person in your mind and being very intentional and very specific. What I also like to say that you have to intercept their stream of thinking in the moment that they, for example, see your ad. So this is very important. This is why you're wanting to understand what language they are using, because whenever a person comes across your ad or comes onto your website, they are amidst their own thinking stream. They're thinking about their, job, their worries, children, family, whatever issues they're having at any given time. And your ad, your sales copy, your video has to speak to them in that particular moment. So if you have used the right phrasing, the right words, the right positioning, they will be interested. and they will stay. They will click, and most likely they will become your client. Now, part two, capture their attention. What would make them stop scrolling? What words would capture their attention? And lastly, what creative or visual would have them hooked? So whenever you are devising a piece of copy, creating an ad, creating a landing page, creating a video, a pitch deck for your investors, whichever sort of point you are at in your life, you really want to think through the lens of the reader, through the lens of your client, and really think, what are the words that would hook them? What are the words that would have their attention? What are the words that will make the ad relevant to them? At first, it seems kind of obvious as to what I'm saying, but to actually do it well requires skill and requires certain practice. But the first step that we've just covered really, really helps. If you know who your client is, you've done half the job by this point, because you really are being specific. So then you're having to capture their attention. It becomes much easier. And what I'd love to remind you of, that it's always about your client, and it's not about your product, and it's not about you. A lot of the time when I work with entrepreneurs or copywriters, they think about themselves more than they think about their client. They would say things like, well, I like this product, I want to sell this product, but nobody is buying it. Or, I've written this beautiful copy, but nobody's clicking through, but it's amazing, I'm a genius. And a lot of the time, well, you're not. Well, you might be, but probably you're not, because you've written a copy for yourself, but not your client. Unless you are your ideal client in terms of your target audience, then that's perfect. But in that case, you would be seeing the results. So I always encourage people to sort of step out of themselves and really look through the lens of their customer, because that really changes your perspective. Not only how you write your copy, but also how you create your products and how you run your entire company. Okay, so we move on to the third part here, which is, again, about knowing your customer. And this is where I say, know their problem. What do they struggle with? This is where we want to understand what problems your client is facing. And this is where you sort of either speak to your clients if you already have some. And if you don't, you sort of think through what problems they might be facing and that your product is actually solving. And you want to take time mapping those out, being as specific as possible. You want to be clear on their challenges or their struggles or issues that they are having. So it's not that, for example, my client is stressed, so therefore I'm selling them a meditation course. No, that's too general. You want to be specific. What is your client going through? What type of stress are they under? Is it work stress? Is it family stress? Is it that they are single and lonely? I mean, there are so many reasons why the person might be stressed. And stress is a general emotion. What is under the stress, under that underlying emotion? So you want to dig deep, because that will enrich your copy and that will make your client go, well, they understand me, they get me, and I want to work with this person. I want to buy from this person. And this is where it's not enough to position it well, but you have to ensure that your solution, which might be your product, your offer, your service, actually solves that problem that you are saying it does. Because what I often see that people say, well, this sort of writing and sales writing sounds somewhat a little manipulative. And I always say, well, it is, unless you actually are selling a good product. Then it's not manipulative. You actually are inviting people into something that will make a difference in their lives. Now, of course, if you created a product that is of questionable value, then yes, probably it is manipulative. So having a good product is important. But at the same time, when you write your copy, you don't want to be spending like hours and hours in that copy of the video or whatever, explaining how great your product is. It's about your client and actually showcasing and explaining how your prospective client will get their problem solved as a result of buying your product, as a result of going through your program, as a result of working with you or in any way participating in what you got to offer. So again, because a lot of copywriters, beginner copywriters would then list, for example, the features of the product and what the product is, instead of how the product is going to change the person's life, how it will actually solve things for this person. Because, once we create a product, we love the product. We want to talk about the product. We want to, tell the entire world. But in reality, unfortunately, human beings intrinsically care about themselves. That's their sort of point of reference. This is why they came to your site or your ad in the first place. You really have to remember that. So we've now covered 3 important elements to a good sales copy. I'd love to hear from you before we cover the remaining 4 elements to a good sales copy. I'd love to hear what's your biggest takeaway so far. And if you could just take a moment and in the comments below, share what's your biggest takeaway, what you are learning, what was one insight, one thing that you're possibly taking away from this video up to this point. I'd absolutely love to hear that. And we are moving on. So the 4th element is to know their desires. What is their dream or end goal? So we've defined and we identified who the client is and what problems they're having, and that's good enough. But now, where does our client want to get to? What are their dreams? Is my product or service actually helping them to get where they want to be? This is very important to show, to understand, and to include in your copy. So, for example, if you're a personal trainer and you're just explaining how good your program is and that they're going to be doing 20,000 squats every session with you or whatever, that's not going to get them excited. But now, if you paint a map of how this person's body will transform, that they will, for example, lose a few pounds, or they will gain muscle, or they will, will feel better about their flexibility, that in itself starts to create an image of what's possible for them. So you want to really understand and tap into their dream. For example, obviously, if you're a personal trainer, this is very, very apparent. It's a self-image that you're helping the person with. And another important thing to consider, that when the person comes, for example, to a personal trainer to get fit, to lose weight, it's not only about that, it's about their self-confidence. It's about their self-love and self-worth. So the person is really having a lot of issues, or at least a lot of desires and goals that they want to get to, or feelings that they want to feel. So if you are able to tap into that, if you're able to preview to this person that, of what's possible to them as a result of being part of your program, part of your product, part of your service, you are really able to then sell it to the person, because you've showed that they can and will get to that end goal with you. So remember that your product or service is worth buying only if it's designed to help your client achieve their goal. And if you have designed your product to specifically solve that problem, you're very likely to sell it. Because there are so many generic products out there that fail, that flop, that never get bought or never scale. And that's the reason. Because people create the products they love and not the products that the customers love. And this is where, we also have to be self-aware as copywriters, as entrepreneurs, as solopreneurs, as side hustlers, that it's not about us. I mean, it's amazing to be building up a job, a career for ourselves, but it's really, in the end of the day, about our clients. Then we move on to introducing our product seamlessly. So now, if we're having a sales copy where we talked about the client's problem, let's go back to over the slides and we can sort of recap together. So we understood who the client is and the client to whom we are speaking. We then identified how we can capture their attention as a result of knowing who the person is. We then mapped out what their problem or challenge or issues are. We understood their desires. So we mapped out this whole psychology, right? Which is helping and assisting us in writing a good sales copy. Now, the time comes that we can actually introduce our product. And this is where it becomes very interesting. So how will your product or service help them get from point A to point B, right? So point A is their fear, their problem, their issue, their challenge. And point B is their end result, their end goal, their dream. Now, your product is the bridge. And this is what you want to showcase, that if they get on that bridge, they'll get to point B. You see? And it's very powerful because as your customer is going through your copy, the understanding that, okay, they're going to move me from me feeling depressed and sad to me feeling happy, for example, as a result of these meditations that this person has provided. And only after you've showcased that bridge, explained how they can get on that product bridge, so to speak, you can then sort of explain what your product includes and what the benefits are and what the bonuses are. And this is how you make purchasing your product a no-brainer for your client. Because what happened is you've showed them the whole journey. You've showed them how you're solving the challenges that they are facing and what's possible for them, what their future vision is. So when it gets to the product itself, when it gets to what they have to buy, it becomes a no-brainer. But a lot of the time, beginner copywriters start with what the product is, and they list, 20, for example, if we go back to the meditation program that one could be selling, and, a beginner copywriter would often list, 25 meditations, and they would list the themes of those meditations, and they would list the amount of time that it takes to go through the course and things like that, which is not the essential information. Nobody really cares how many meditations you are including. What they really care about is relieving their stress, overcoming their grief, getting over the breakup, spending more time in peace and quiet. This is what people care about, right? So if you're able to sort of take them on that journey and that logic and that understanding, then they get to the point where, okay, actually, I need this. And they don't even question it because you made it so very clear that they want to be part of what you've created. Now, this is another key element, and we just have one more to go, which is social proof. There is nothing more powerful than telling stories of your previous clients, people who have bought your product, your service prior, because we are human. We love to hear stories because, as I always say, we are storytelling animals. We think through stories. We conceptualize our life experience through stories, and we buy because of stories. So if you get a bunch of your clients to share their stories and you structure them the right way, your new prospective client will be, oh, okay, these people are just like me. They've also experienced, grief and breakup and sadness, or they also struggled with weight and not being able to gain muscle and mass. So there are all these people like me. And look, they've gone on this journey with this person and they've succeeded. Actually, that proves to me that I can do it too. So social proof is absolutely important. So whenever you have a client, whether it's a paying client or a free client or a friend that you've helped, get a testimonial, get a mini story, get a full-fledged success story, and put it on your website, on your landing page, included in your ads, because that really increases the chance of the person buying from you, because it validates what you have to offer. And then consider sharing what makes you an authority in your field. And this is very important. This is where you can include your credentials, your job experience, your life experience. And it doesn't always have to be that if you're starting out as a copywriter, for example, and you don't have copywriting experience, that you can't create such a description and showcase your authority. I remember when I started out as an entrepreneur, as a writer, as a copywriter, I included in that description that I used to be a playwright, that I had all these award-winning plays in different countries in Europe and in America. And obviously that's not copywriting. That's not sales writing. And that is in no way an experience that helps you write about products. But I position it in a way that, hey, I've spent years perfecting the craft of writing and learning the craft of writing. And, I can really help you present your products creatively, interestingly, in a way that no other copywriter will do. And this is how I signed up my first client, which was an accountancy company from England, which is a weird match when you think about it. So what I'm trying to say is that even if you do not have experience in this particular field in which you are selling something, think of all the other life experiences or your job experiences in other industries, other fields that you can position in a way that it seems relevant. And that's definitely possible. It's just a matter of understanding how that helps you get to this point in your life. Okay, so once you've got all of that set, I would just say, remember that your customer stories give you credibility. They speak louder than your sales words. So always and always make it your priority to collect these stories. And I know that some of you might be watching this and say, well, but I haven't got my first client. Like, how will I get a story from anybody? So I would just say, help a friend, find somebody on your social media that you can help for free in an exchange of a testimonial. Deliver your product or your service to somebody for free and just get them to tell what the experience was like of working with you. And that already is a story that you can then leverage and use. So it doesn't always have to be a paid client. Of course, with every paid client, you want to accumulate that story catalog and present it to the world. Okay, and once you've got all of that, all these 6 key elements so far, we move on to the final one, which is inviting people to buy. Now, by this point, we've earned the right to say, well, hey, I think you can actually benefit from this. You should join this program. You should buy this product. And the time is now. And I always like to say, give your client a reason to buy now. Give a deadline, add a bonus which will expire in X amount of time, or offer a discount. Make it so that they have the sense of FOMO, fear of missing out. So this is very important. If you created a product that is good, that is of value, nobody wants to have FOMO, fear of missing out. And this is the art of good sales copy, that you embed a sense of urgency because you know that your product is good enough, because you know that your product will make a difference in the person's life. So you don't want them to just sort of leave your page and never return. You want them to feel that sense of urgency. You want them to understand that a lot is at stake, that a lot will change in their life if they will become part of whatever you have to offer. Now, of course, provided that you will deliver on your promise. But if you do, then embedding that sense of urgency is absolutely important. So ask yourself, how can you make your sales copy feel urgent? How can you make it so that the person reading it would go, well, I don't want to miss out on this. This sounds amazing. But this sounds like something I've been looking for ages. And now this is in front of my eyes and it has a deadline and I've got to join now because I might miss out on this again. So you want to give that sense of urgency to the person and help them make that decision to buy. And of course, once they come on board, it's up to you to deliver on that promise. So this is our sales copy training. And before we recap, I just want to encourage you to sign up for more copywriting videos by clicking like and subscribe, and also clicking on one of the videos that are appearing now on the screen to be training more and becoming better at your craft as a copywriter. So to just sum up and make sure that you really cement your knowledge, I'd love to just quickly go over what we've learned today. And I also want to encourage to take screenshots of these slides and do these exercises, because all these questions are potentially exercises and prompts when you are writing your sales copy. So number 1 was to know your client and understand who your client is. Number 2 was about capturing your client's attention. Number 3 was about knowing their problem and defining the client's problem. Then number 4 was about finding out their desires and their end goals and their dreams. We then talked about how we can introduce your product seamlessly. And we also discussed the value of gathering social proof and also showcasing your authority in the field. And we finished off with the invitation to buy and embedding a sense of urgency in your copy. Thanks for watching this video. And remember that this channel is your resource for better copywriting. So go and explore it, and I'll see you in the next video.